Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Node.js. The Node.js team just released the latest version, Node.js 24, with some really significant updates and new features. Now, if you've worked with Node.js before, you know that historically it didn't have a lot of standard package available. You always had to rely on third-party packages for everything from TypeScript support to testing to how environment variable works. But now with the evolution of Node.js, we're at a point where it has native features that seriously improve the developer experience, boost security, and reduce that dependency overhead. I'll provide this link in the description below so you can go ahead and check out and read on your own time. So in this video, I'm going to explore 8 powerful Node.js features, many of them now native, that you might not be using yet, but you absolutely should be. So I'm here in my Visual Studio Code. I'm going to check my Node version. And as you can see here, I have the version 24.11. 24 is an even number, so it will have long-term support. All the odd numbers will be experimental. So version 24 is perfect for you to use your development and also in your production environment. All right, so let's talk about the first feature, TypeScript support. Now, I should mention that it's not full TypeScript support, but partial TypeScript support. Let me show you what I mean. So here I have a file, index.js. This is a Node.js project. And here you can see that it is an index.js file. So if I do console.log hello, and then run that application, node index.js, it's going to console log hello. But what if I change this to a TS file? Now this is a TypeScript file. Now in previous version of Node.js, Node natively cannot run TypeScript file. But with the latest release, you'll be able to run TypeScript file. So let me go ahead and write some TypeScript code here instead of just console logging. I'm going to create a function which will take a name as an argument and which simply will log hello, that name. Let's add this variable called username Adam. Let's add a type here as well. And let's call this function with that username. Now I can run node space index.ts file and let's see what happens. There you go. It console logs hello Adam. So it's not giving me any error, where in previous version of Node.js, you will see an error. Let me demonstrate that. I'll go ahead, use the previous version, which is 22. And here you can see Node V. I'm on right now version 22. I can do this because I have a package downloaded, which is NVM, Node Version Manager. I highly recommend it if you want to use multiple versions of Node on your machine. Node Version Manager makes it super easy. So here, since I'm on version 22 and not the latest one, I'll run the same file one more time, and you can see that it gives you error right away. Let me go back to my version 24 and run that again. You see that it's running the TypeScript file. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean that Node.js now currently support TypeScript fully. What it's doing in the background is basically it's just stripping all the types out. So it's stripping away this string and this colon, this string right here, and then it's running the file as a JavaScript file. That's all it's doing. So the issue arises when you specifically use some TypeScript function that is not available in JavaScript. For example, you can create an enum with a role, admin, and user. Let's go ahead, console log role.admin here. With the enum, it should console log 0 here. You see that now it's actually giving you an error because enum is a function that doesn't exist in JavaScript and it needs to be transformed into JavaScript function. And Node.js currently cannot do that. It only can strip that types from the file. It's still a good thing that Node.js allows us to run TypeScript file if you're not using anything that is specific to TypeScript. For most of the cases, it is fine. But if you are someone who uses the enum or any TypeScript specific functions, for example, private and public in classes, you probably still need to have the TS node or TSC to compile your TypeScript in your Node.js project. Now, I do want to show you this flag you can add, which is experimental-transform-types, and then run index.ts. And you can see now with this flag, you can, in fact, transform your TypeScript file to JavaScript, and it is going to run just like a native JavaScript file. This gives me hope that they're absolutely working on this, and maybe in next couple of versions, we are going to see full support of TypeScript. So that's great. Node.js by default uses CommonJS. If you take a look at package.json, you see the type is CommonJS, and CommonJS looks something like this. You say const fs equals to is going to be require, and here is going to be the module, and then you'll be able to utilize that particular module. Now, if you want to use ECMAScript modules, all you have to do is go back to package.json and change this to module. And now, instead of doing this, we will be able to do import like so. So let's talk about number 3 feature, which is promise-based standard packages. So standard packages such as the FS module, path, HTTP, HTTPS modules now have synchronous callback and promise-based forms. If you prefer promises and async await, use the promise-based API. Okay, so I will show you the previous version, how you used to write code, and the newer version. So here we have a file.txt. It has a text hello, and we will console log that text. So fs read, we're going to say read file is going to take the file name and the type, and here it can take a callback function. I'm going to say error, throw error, otherwise just console log the data like so. Now here, if I do node index.ts, and you can see that it is console logging hello. But if you like to use async await, then all you can do simply, I'm going to comment this out. And here, let's go ahead and create a variable called content equals to. And here we can actually use await right away. And we're going to do the same exact thing. We also have to get promises, and that's the new API, which allows us to use await. And now we can do console.log content. And if I run the file one more time, you'll see hello logging. You see that await is now also allowed in our Node.js app. It's a top level await. You don't need async for this. We have an env-file that has a GitHub secret equals to my secret. Now, in order to work with env in Node.js, we always had to rely on a third party, which is a .env package. With the new release, we wouldn't need that package anymore. So let me show you. So here, let's go ahead, just console log process.env. So now, if I run this, you see that it is undefined. Node.js cannot read our .env file. But if we do something like this, node, and then add in flag --env-file equals .env with that flag right here equals to our .env, and then run index.ts, it is indeed going to log our env secret. With this flag, we can completely ignore our .env package. This is built-in test runner in Node. So you don't need a Jest library or Mocha or Chai. Node.js now support its built-in test runner. So let's go ahead and create a file. I'm going to call this utils.ts. It's going to have a couple of very simple functions. One's going to be isEmailValid. It's going to look for a regex. Another one is going to be truncate text. It's going to take a text as string and max length. So if text.length is less than or equal to the max length, it's going to return the text. If it's more, then it's just going to truncate that with ellipsis. All right, so let's go ahead and create another file. We're going to go ahead and do utils.test.ts here. And we're going to first go ahead and import our describe from node test. We're also going to get it from our node test. We will need assert from our node assert, and we will need our functions. So is email valid and truncate text. So the syntax looks pretty similar to how you write Jest test. So you're going to say describe. We're going to give a description. Is email valid is the function that we're testing it out. It's going to take a callback function, and we are going to invoke the it. And then we will describe what it should return. So it should return true for a valid email. And then a callback function here. And here we're going to assert OK. And we're just going to invoke is email valid with a valid email. I'm going to copy paste this 2 more times. And the next one is actually going to be false, return false for invalid email. And let's just go ahead, get rid of this .com. So this is invalid email, and it should return false. This assert.ok actually wants to see a true D value. So is email valid is going to return a Boolean. So if it's not a valid, it's going to return false. We're going to make sure that we're going to negate that. So basically say that it actually fails. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Returns false for, this time we're going to say empty string. Pretty basic test we're running here. So this is going to be for our first function. I'm going to go ahead and just copy paste the test suite for our truncate function. All right, let's go ahead and run this. We have to do node --test. And there you go. You take a look, test 6. We ran 6 tests, 2 suites, and it's all pass. Fantastic. You can also do node --test experimental test coverage, which will give you a nice little graph of the coverage for your test suite. Pretty awesome. All right, our next feature is pretty amazing as well. So Node.js finally adopted the watch flag. So up until recently, we are always used to using nodemon package. So basically, whenever we are making any changes on our file, we would have to manually run node.index.ts file or whichever file we are working on. Then the changes will reflect. For an example, right here, if I want to run this test like so, it closed the server right away, just ran the test. With watch flag or previously with nodemon package, we could just watch it. So every time I'm changing this, it's going to auto reload. It's similar to hot reload if you ever worked with React.js or Vue.js and stuff like that, right? So let me go ahead and just do that. Watch dash watch and then dash test. This one will actually not going to close our server here. It's going to run our test, and now every time I'm going to make a change. So for an example here, let's go ahead, do another one. Let's do John at email like this, and if I save this, you see that it automatically refreshes and our test still passes. So I don't have to each time go and restart my server, which is absolutely awesome. All right, so let's talk about our next feature, which is pretty awesome. Node.js now have a built-in SQLite database. So we used to have another package called SQLite 3 to work with the SQLite database in our Node.js. Node.js now provide a SQLite database by default. So let's go ahead and create a file here. We're going to call this db.ts file. And here, I'm just going to go ahead and create. So import, I'm going to say database sync, and that's going to be from Node SQLite. And here we're just going to say const database is equals to new database sync. Now here we would either do this syntax, and it's called memory. So if you hover over this, you can take a look that it can store the data in memory or in a file, SQLite file. In case of file, we just have to provide the file path. But in this case, we just want to use in memory. So we have to pass in this syntax right here. All right, so let's see how we can interact with our database. So the first, we're gonna go ahead and do execute SQL statements, okay? So we're gonna say database.exec, and we're gonna be using template string. Inside our template string, we will just write our SQL statements. So we're gonna say create table, I'm gonna call this data, and this data will have two columns. We're gonna say key, which will be type of integer. It will be primary key. Next one is going to be value, and it's going to be type of text. Let's go and add a strict here as well. And there you go. This is our SQL statement. Now let's go ahead and prepare our insert statement. So we're going to say const insert is equals to database.prepare. And here we can write SQL statement. So you're going to say insert into the data table, and we can pass in what we want to the column names, so the key and value, and then the values would be like so. And now we can run this. So we can just basically say insert dot run. Let's go ahead and give a key, which is going to be 1, and the text value for the first one is going to be hello. Let's do the second one. I'm going to go ahead and do key number 2 and say world, like that. So this too, once we run this file, this too will insert this key and values to our SQL database in our memory. Let's also query that. So first insert the data to the database and then query that database so that we can console log this. So we're going to say const query, another prepare statement. We're going to say like that. And here we are going to do select everything from data, and let's order by key. And then let's go ahead and console.log query.all, which is a function. There you go. All right, and that should log our key and value. So now let's go ahead and db.ts. Perfect, there you go. We can see that the two key and value now coming from our database. Now, there is an experimental warning. SQLite is an experimental feature and might change at any time. Use node-trace-warnings, but it still is awesome that they're working on this one, and SQLite is something that you'll be using for development purpose anyway. Production, you're probably using Postgres or something else. So having this SQLite support in our Node.js is a big help. All right, so our next feature is built-in debugger. So I am going to just console log process.env this one in our index.ts file. Let's go ahead and do node-inspect and then run our file right here. It basically runs and closes the application right away before I can even go check the debugger. So another way I can do is --inspect -break, like so. Now this is going to listen, so debugger listening on this particular file. What I have to do here is I have to go here. If you go to Chrome://inspect, and then if you open dedicated DevTools for Node, it should open up this DevTools, which is now connected with your Node.js application. And now from here, you'll be able to debug, just like you would debug a front-end app. All right, guys, this has been it. I think there are tons of features right now, and the folks behind Node.js, it is an open source project. There are many alternatives out there, Bun.js, Dino.js, but they're all backed by VC money, and they're definitely good product. But Node.js has been in the industry forever. If you go work in a company, you're probably going to have to work with Node.js. And I really want to express my appreciation for the folks that working behind Node.js without any money. It's just completely their voluntary work to maintain this and improve this year over year. So it is amazing. I love Node.js, and I hope you will definitely enjoy these features as well. And go check out the release notes. There are a lot more than what I covered here. So with that, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video. Happy coding.